Thank you, members of the committee. My name is Ryan Laughlin. I'm a small business owner here in Providence, and I'm speaking in favor of both bills, particularly Senate Bill 274. I'm not here to try to change your opinion about abortion itself. I recognize that abortion is an incredibly complicated issue, and everyone has spent long hours thinking about whether it is ethical, whether it is moral, whether people should have more or less access to it in the state of Rhode Island. What I'm here to do today is to take the existing access that a Rhode Island woman has to abortion and to set that down in law. Because right now, there's nothing that does that. And I know that a lot of the context of this conversation has been perceived threats at the federal level, has been concerns about Roe v. Wade being overturned. I'd actually like to set that aside. I'd like to look at the history of Rhode Island itself on abortion issues in law, because we have a complicated history with it, and one that I did not know about, and I think many people here do not. To start with, I'd actually like to correct something from the testimony of the speaker from the ACLU, who brought up section 11-3 of our state laws, which has been struck down as unconstitutional. She phrased that as a pre-Wade law that was struck down. It was actually passed post-Wade. In 1973, the Roe v. Wade ruling happened in January. And in March, this state house passed a bill that defined life as beginning, defined conception as beginning, defined life as beginning at conception. Had it right the first time. This effectively outlawed abortion immediately again in Rhode Island, and it wasn't overturned until June of that year by the First Circuit Court of Appeals. So to start with, right out the gate, Rhode Island took a stance against Roe v. Wade. This is something that happened in the state house, got signed by the governor, went into law. And it took a court challenge to reverse it. It's still on the books. If, God forbid, something were to happen to Roe v. Wade, it's in our state laws. We probably wouldn't immediately go back to abortion being illegal, but it would be open for a challenge. The second point that I want to bring up is that it doesn't just stop in 1973. In 1986, we held a constitutional convention. And one of the things that came out of that constitutional convention was an addition to Section 1, to the first page of our state constitution, that noted we had the right to due process, we had the right to equal protection, but specifically, none of those things applied to abortion. We guaranteed no right to abortion in any form. And that comes before guaranteeing the right to religious freedom. It comes before the prohibition of slavery. It's in like the third paragraph of our state constitution, and it's something that we added 13 years after Roe v. Wade. It passed via a ballot measure that did not mention the word abortion. It only mentioned the due process and equal protection portions of the section. So we have this history, particularly in the late 20th century, of Rhode Island going on the attack against Roe v. Wade and trying to roll it back as a state, not about what's happening at the national level, but just us doing our thing here in Little Rhodey. I do think that public opinion has changed pretty significantly since then. Several people have rolled out the stat that Pew ran a poll in January of this year that showed Rhode Islanders support abortion by a 2-to-1 margin. I want to note specifically that that's significantly higher than the national average. The national average is only about 50%, and here in Rhode Island, it's in the low 60s. So the people of Rhode Island, even though we come from, the decisions that Rhode Island made in the 70s and 80s make a lot of sense in the context of how Catholic a state we are. And that's a huge part of our identity and a huge part of where we come from. But I do think that history has shown the people of Rhode Island moving in the direction of guaranteeing access to abortion. And I don't think that our laws have caught up to that yet. And that's the reason why a measure like Senate 274 is so important, is that it is our state standing up and taking a stand and saying, we have all these things on the books about restricting abortion in a variety of ways. We don't have anything that says this is a choice that you're allowed to make. And we do think that this is a choice you're allowed to make. It's a choice that you're allowed to make today, if you need to. One other point that I want to make, I was one of the last speakers at the last speakers to testify at the House hearing on this. And a big theme there that is reappearing here is regret. A lot of people who have had abortions come and give very, very meaningful testimony that at first I want to recognize that I think that's incredibly real, and I think that's very true, and I feel deep, deep sorrow for the people who have made this decision and come to feel that it is the wrong one. That is a risk that people run, and I think in a lot of ways the flip side of choice is regret, because when you have the power to make a choice, you have the power to make the wrong choice and to regret it when you look back on it later. And it's one of the great tragedies of being alive, is that there are a lot of really difficult situations where you don't know what the right choice to make is. But the thing that's really powerful is that you are the one who gets to make the choice. That is absolutely essential, and I cannot imagine being in such a momentous moment, such a heavy decision, and not having the power to make one of the choices. And you know, I'm a man. I'm not going to be in that position myself, but I think every woman in the state of Rhode Island deserves that choice. So I would love to see my state stand up and say, this is one of the choices that you're allowed to make. It's written down here. We believe in it.